Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live. It is on a Friday again. I hope you all are doing well. And I'm so glad you're here again. I enjoy so much. Thank you so much for joining me on these Fridays and letting me share just some of this exciting information with you that might not be as easy to find out there and that I'm very excited and passionate about. So today I'm going to share some, I think, fascinating information. We're going to talk today about tanning and the damage to your skin from sunburn and what you can do to actually protect your skin and how there's this little peptide called melanotan that not only protects you, makes you tan. As you can see, I've been using Melanotan, as I've mentioned before. I'm using Melanotan, and you can see, I'm going to show you some before and after pictures. And not only protects you from sunburn and from sun damage, but also results in a stronger immune system, better sleep, better intimacy, and even fat loss, all in one wonderful little peptide. So let's talk about sunburn and sun damage, because especially for those of us that live in a very tropical place like Southwest Florida, we have a UV index that is very high, and anyone who has lived here or visited here can imagine the skin cancer rates are really high, and that's something that, of course, we would like to avoid if we can. So until now, very fair-skinned people like me, in order to tan their skin, was either to sunbathe, which you just hope you don't burn. You just go out in the sun and wear sunscreen, but the sunscreen sometimes washes off, or get a spray-on tan, which we know what a spray-on tan is. Or you can go to a tanning salon, which uses artificial, predominantly UVA radiation. Now, there have been multiple studies that have shown an increased risk of cancer associated with indoor tanning beds. And I'm not here to throw the tanning beds under the bus at all. I just want to empower you with information. If you choose to do indoor tanning, I want you to understand that what's there and what's not there as far as protecting your skin. So I'm going to tell you why that is. Like, we're going to talk about UVA and UVB rays and offer an alternative for you. So skin cancer is the most common of all cancers in the United States. There was a study published in 2009 which shared the staggering statistics that in 1 year there were more than 1 million new cases of non-melanoma skin cancer and around 70,000 new cases of melanoma skin cancer. So well-intended people have been going to tanning salons to get what they call a base tan before going on vacation or out to a place where there's a lot of sun, thinking they were protecting themselves from harmful ultraviolet radiation. But is that really true? Are they really protecting themselves? There was a study published in 2010 that looked at tanning bed ultraviolet radiation, and the results showed that immediate pigment darkening, which is what occurs in tanning beds, has no photoprotective effect against ultraviolet radiation-induced redness or the DNA damage that results in skin cancer. Interestingly, it was found that the UVB, or ultraviolet B radiation, induced tan. The sun has both UVA and UVB in it. So a UVB-induced tan, such as one obtained from sunbathing, confers only minimal photoprotection, equivalent to a sunscreen with a sun protection factor of about 3. So, we have this idea that if we have a tan, that we're not getting damage to our skin. And even if we don't burn, we're still accumulating a certain amount of damage to our skin. So a visually identical UVA-induced tan from a tanning bed compared to the UVB tan in sunbathing provides even less protection, with a sun protection factor of around 1. So when people are tanners, like people who are trying to get a tan, they have this misconception that they're protected because they have what they think is a base tan. They may spend a longer time in the sun without protection, thus increasing their risk for skin cancer. So delayed tanning is our true natural protection. So that occurs over about 72 hours after starting the initial process of increasing your body's melanin production. So it's really the delayed tanning, it occurs by melanin synthesis. So melanin is the pigment in our skin that gives us coloration. So when you see that my pictures now, you can see that I have more melanin in my skin. It produces that bronzy brown color compared to my paler, more what I was born with, skin color that is very white. As a matter of fact, I'm usually the color of mayonnaise. So I'm very, very fair skinned. So I have less melanin production in my skin at baseline. So the melanin production is really what is protecting us. So what if our protection comes from, if our protection from ultraviolet radiation is coming from melanin synthesis in our body? Is there a way that we can make more melanin? Yes, that is what we're here to talk about today. That is exactly what the melanotan peptide does. So melanin is part of our melanocortin system, and the melanocortins are peptides that are made actually in the brain. They do many, many things in addition to increasing our body's melanin and darkening our skin color. Melanotan is a peptide that you inject, and it provides delayed tanning without sun exposure. So over the course of about 2 weeks. The melanocortin system does so much more, though, than just tan us. It's also involved in reducing systemic inflammation, improving sleep, improving sexual health for both men and women. I'm going to show you a study about that, and fat loss. And it's been extensively studied. So let's take a look now at some of these studies. The first study I'm going to show you is this study over here, and this is basically, this was a pilot study that was done in 1996, and this was when they first really started looking at melanotan in the clinical research, and they were basically looking to see if this melanotan peptide, which is also known as an alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone analog, that's kind of scientific jargon for the melanotan, sits in the same receptor as this natural peptide that we make in our brain does. And does this melanotan actually induce tanning? And you can look, this is a very nice pilot study. And at the end of the day, their results demonstrated that melanotan has tanning activity in humans, only 5 low doses every other day. And that's one way of certainly dosing this, by subcutaneous, which is under the skin, like a little insulin needle would be. And they even have a recommended dose. So this was the first time they looked at, I mean, you can clearly look at a person and see if they have the tanning effect. It's one of the few peptides we have that actually does show us that it's working, because you can see it. So that's the first study I wanted to show you. Now, there's another study that I wanted to show you. So when we think about the melanocortin system and who's at risk for serious sunburn, sun damage, skin cancer. Not to get too nerdy about this, but so that you understand that there's always been this understanding that really fair-skinned people, red-haired people, carried a certain variation in their genetics that predisposed them or made them more vulnerable and at risk for getting skin cancer. And but there's been a lot of study to actually investigate why that is and how that works. Well, interestingly, what they found was that there was a genetic mutation, or what they call a variant, that isn't associated with super fair skin or red hair. There's a bunch of them. They actually found a bunch of these variants on that melanocortin 1 receptor that increase the risk of skin cancer. So, when we look at melanotan as a peptide that helps prevent skin cancer, we would like to know that melanotan is helping those people as well, not just the people that are very obviously super fair and don't have a lot of melanin in their skin. But what about the ones who you can't tell unless you knew that they had that little genetic variant? In fact, it does. So this is the one study I wanted to show you that kind of talks about this. This was the melanocortin. So these are the receptors where the different melanocortins. There's like 5 different melanocortins. Melanotan is part of that whole system, and this receptor variants in the genetics are associated with an increased risk of cutaneous melanoma. So this actually showed that it was independent of skin type and hair color. So these variants are actually occurring in other folks. So this is a really nice study. This was published in 2001. And the results here show that, yes, in fact, the numerous melanocortin 1 receptor variants predispose cutaneous melanoma, and that, so possibly independent of skin type and hair color. So I think that's a nice base. I know we're getting a little nerdy on all of this, but it's a nice base for you to see how melanotan now, it actually is protective even with these variant alleles. So you can see that melanotan could be protective for all types of people. So on this study, and this was published in 2006, 2006, and it demonstrated that melanotan was effectively increased the melanin content of skin in those individuals with these variant alleles, and therefore most in need of photoprotection, because these were the folks that were at significantly increased risk of skin cancer. So those are some really nice studies about the protective effect of melanotan. But what about some of the other things that I mentioned about melanotan? Because it does a lot of other things. The melanocortin system in the brain is amazing. And for those of us who use melanotan, we really notice the difference. Better sleep, there's an intimacy effect, and I'll show you a study on that. And there's fat loss. And it's independent of the fact that you may not be eating as much. They've looked at that in an independent way. So there's these other, and the effect on inflammation. So there's a lot of folks in the peptide world who use melanotan not as much on an everyday basis to keep their skin dark, but on more of a maintenance basis to manage inflammatory conditions, and it's very effective at that. So let me show you another study about, this was about the intimacy and erectile dysfunction aspects of melanotan. So let me take you to that study. So this study in October of 2000 was with 20 men, and it showed that in the absence of sexual stimulation, melanotan led to penile erection in 17 out of 20 men. And these subjects experienced an average of 41 minutes. This is the Rigiscan tip rigidity is basically measuring the strength or the robustness of an erection. And that was at greater than 80% at 41 minutes. So increased sexual desire was reported after 13 out of 19 doses of melanotan, versus the placebo, or the control, which was the placebo, which was 4 out of 21. Now, nausea is a real common side effect, and yawning were frequently reported side effects due to the melanotan, and these were the doses that they used. And about 12.9% of their subjects had severe nausea. I don't find that it's that high to be severe nausea, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but it is a potent initiator of penile erection in men with erectile dysfunction. And there was another study that showed that this was actually independent of whether you're using things like Cialis or Viagra. This works on a different mechanism. So even in men who didn't respond well to those types of medications that are really focused on the blood flow, this is more on the nerve. It works in the level of the nerve. So that's a pretty nice study. Now, what about other things that melanotan can help us with? Let's look at that, because this is really exciting. So the Journal of European Pharmacology published in February of 2003 the neurotrophic and neuroprotective. So now we're talking about nerve. We're talking about helping nerve to regenerate and helping to protect nerve. So the potential of melanotan, a potent melanocortin receptor agonist, so melanotan and alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone agonists, those are, I know it's all scientific jargon, but those things are used together when you look at these scientific studies. They investigated that. Now, this was a sciatic nerve crush injury that was used to investigate the neurotrophic properties of melanotan. And it showed that melanotan significantly enhanced the recovery of the sensory function, which is the feeling function, following a crush injury of the sciatic nerve in an animal model. In addition, it observed that the melanotan possessed neuroprotective properties, as it partially protected the nerve from a toxic neuropathy induced by cisplatin, which some of you may know is a chemotherapy drug. So this was the first time it demonstrated effectiveness of both the melanotan on nerve regeneration and neuroprotection. So if you think about this little tanning peptide and the ability to actually help heal and protect from further insult nerve, that's pretty amazing. So you wouldn't often think about a tanning peptide having that capability, but it does. So those were some studies I definitely wanted to share with you. So what about melanotan? Well, it's not for everyone. Unfortunately, we're still in the process of studying it with the presence of malignant melanoma. So if you've had malignant melanoma, even if you've had it 5 years and you haven't had any recurrence, until there's better studies specifically on malignant melanoma recurrence, and risk of first exposure is not an issue. But if you've already had melanoma, melanotan is not going to be for you until we get those studies really done that demonstrate. There was one study that it indicated that melanotan may actually be protective in malignant melanoma through a different mechanism. But we don't have enough research on that particular area to be able to be confident about it. So if you've had malignant melanoma, then melanotan is not going to be for you. But for non-malignant melanoma skin cancers, this could be an extremely protective thing for you. Now, some of the things to be aware of are that all of your skin gets darker. So when your body produces more melanin, unlike if you just get a little tan on the surface of one arm, all of the melanin in your body upregulates. So your dark spots that you have are going to get a little bit darker. And sometimes even the lines of the hand can get a little bit of color on them. And the mucous membranes, everything gets a little bit more melanin in it. So that's not, I don't want you to be surprised by that. It's just part of your body producing more melanin. But you want to have your skin looked at before those dark spots start getting darker, whether you have a dermatologist, which most people in Southwest Florida see a dermatologist, or your primary care doctor does this big surveillance of your skin to make sure that you're not, they know what everything looks like before you would start melanotan, so you don't surprise them with these things getting darker fairly quickly. And there is the issue of nausea. So it's usually dose dependent, and some people don't get nauseated at all. But those who do, that can be, really frustrating. It doesn't last for very long. It lasts maybe 20 minutes for some people, an hour. But there are things that you can do to prevent that from happening or treat it when it does happen. And it is self-resolving. So usually the dose is you use melanotan every day until you get to that desired coloration if you're using it for tanning. And then it's about twice a week for maintenance. I don't use it all year round. I use it in the summer when I'm at greatest risk of getting sunburn and sun damage and skin cancer. I still wear sunscreen, or I wear a hat. You don't use melanotan and then go sunbathing, or certainly you don't use melanotan and go to a sun tanning booth. That's really dangerous. You don't want to do that. So, but if you're using it to protect yourself, to get that tanning, the sunless tanning, or the protection from sunburn, and all the other benefits that melanotan has to offer, then we actually put melanotan in our summer package for that reason. So if you're interested in the summer package, go to drheather.net/summer package. And melanotan is part of the things that we offered in that summer package. So, and if you're a patient of mine and you're not interested in the summer package, but you are interested in maybe to see if melanotan is right for you, you can go to drheather.net/contact and then mention melanotan. There's a little area, are you interested in peptides? And you can even put a note in there that I'm interested in melanotan, and we'll see if melanotan is right for you. And if you're not a patient of mine yet, and you would like to become a patient of mine, and you live in Florida at least part of the year, then go to drheather.net/new patient, and we'll get you all squared away with everything you need to become a patient of mine. So I hope that this was interesting and helpful. Let me show you some of the before and after pictures before we go. I'll leave the studies up. This is kind of fun. Nice thing to end on. Okay, so this is me, all four of me. And you can see here that this was in May 8th of 2020. And this is all before I started using melanotan. This was right before I started using melanotan. This was June 12th of 2020. These are shots of me from our Facebook Live. And this is 4 weeks after using melanotan. And I used it pretty regularly. I didn't use it every single day for 4 weeks, but I did use it pretty regularly to ramp up here. And then this is on August 7th. This is 8 weeks after starting melanotan. So you can really see the difference. And this is all the same lighting, same everything. This is a little bit of a closer look. You can see that all of the skin is darker on my face, on my arms. And I have a couple more before and after pictures. These are staff and family. This is before, and look at that beautiful after picture. So even if you're as fair-skinned as I am, Melanotan can help you protect your skin, and it can help you have that summer glow that some of us really enjoy having, and not get sunburned, which is the more important thing. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Again, the summer package, if you're interested in that, is drheather.net/summer2020. And the other links are there in the chat for you. And I look forward to next Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope to hear back from you. Just let me know if these things are the kinds of things you're looking to hear, or send me suggestions of things that you would like me to discuss. I'm happy to do that. I just love that you come and join me for this. I'm so honored. And thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye-bye for now.